Hello everyone, it's December 1st today. I'm making this video kind of at the last hour. I'm sitting on the 30th of November. It's American Thanksgiving weekend, and here in Canada it's do nothing weekend, as is most weekends. And I've got my bundle in my hand here, and what I thought I would do for our video this month is talk a little bit about the bundle. What it means, and especially for those of you who already have one, or if you've never made one before and you're a little bit like, stumped a little bit about what this might mean after we're done, what you might do with it when you're finished. And I'm also going to share what's inside mine. So to start with, I have this fabulous fabric. This is kind of the first thing, as many of you know who've been through the process, but we have some who are sort of still in the beginning stages. The bundle is all about the fabric. So for me, I really wanted something, red. I had some plain red fabric when I first started, but then I found this gorgeous fabric afterwards. So inside my bundle is, I'm going to share a little bit of stuff that most people don't know about me. I'm not going to go through all my objects, but I will share a few of them. But what I think some of you might find interesting is the second pouch that I have everything in. So you can sort of see there's a tree of life. It kind of looks more like a weeping willow tree with the roots coming down, and then there's a spiral kind of in the roots of the tree. Okay, so you might be looking at this thinking, okay, what is this pouch that Nakaya has? This is a placenta bundle. So when I was giving birth to our second daughter, I really wanted to do a lotus birth. And for some of you who are not familiar with what a lotus birth is, it's after you give birth to the baby, ideally you don't cut the cord. There's a bit of a cord delay, and the blood from the mother completes the process, pumping from the mom through the umbilical cord into the placenta. Or from the placenta into the baby, sorry, other way around. And the baby gets this last hit of blood from the placenta as it's being born. It's a really great thing. It's a good thing to do. So a delayed cord clamp, for those of you who geek out, I was a doula for a long time, so this is a really wonderful thing. We wanted to take it one step further and to give birth to our baby with the placenta attached still to the baby. So the idea is that the umbilical cord would fall off when it was ready. Oh, I can hear my kitty cat coming through the door. I'm like, what's this going on? And so what we did was, I had a dear friend who's really good at sewing make this for me. And the idea had been to give birth to our daughter, Zara, and put the placenta and into this bag. And then this would be attached to her little belly button until the placenta fell off. And inside, it's lined with red silk. Having said that, after she was born, she didn't breathe right away. And so my midwife, we had her in the house here, just over there. And it was a water birth for our daughter. And after she was born, she didn't breathe right away. So the midwives starting to get a little bit concerned, and I was really high on endorphins. So I was like, oh, my baby, it's really great. Everything's fine. And they were like, no, it's not fine. So they had to cut her cord and take her to the little intubation station that midwives set up if you have a home birth, and unplugged her little throat, and then she was fine and everything was great. But we weren't able to have a lotus birth. So I had this gorgeous pouch that I had made for me, with which I do find interesting because I had sewn the tree of life onto it with these beads. And I'd been sitting, I just had it for years and years and years. And there's even a little moon, if you can see the little moon there. And I didn't know what to do with it. So when I started to create the work for the Tree of Life work and working with the trees for the mystery school, I realized that this is exactly what this beautiful bundle was going to be used for. So this is our daughter's placenta bag. And inside I have all of my objects that represent all of the archetypes that we work through within the mystery school. And, of course, those of you who have finished and completed will know, each one really has a very specific meaning, and each object is very unique to your own journey and your own process. And, you know, they don't always make sense. Like if someone looked at all of all of the objects, this is a little cauldron. How cute is that, right? And inside is this shell, which doesn't seem to want to come out. Things have been in my bundle for a long time. So, you know, as we journey through the 13 months and you're working with the archetypes and the goddesses, there's this component to journeying for the sacred objects. And these objects that go into the bundle all represent who we are, parts of who we are. You know, they're the archetypal aspects of who we are. This is gorgeous. Doesn't look like much. Oh, I wish you could smell it though. So as a sacred beekeeper, I often would scrape the propolis out of my beehives. So this is a big ball of propolis from my beehives, and it smells divine. And propolis is used for protection. It's when I use it for medicine, I use the propolis. I might burn a little bit to cleanse the air, or to use it for fierce protection. So I would keep it in a little pouch when I'm doing specific type of spirit work, or I might even give some of it to a client if I'm working with them. So for me, this represented the sorcerer part of myself, because the propolis for me is a really sacred medicine as a sacred beekeeper. And so you can, oh, I wish you could smell it. The smell is really beautiful. What else have I got in here? I have so many things in here. You know, it's funny. This is actually meant to go on a door. It's I think they call them estrustions. And it's actually, like I said, it's actually meant to go on as a door, but I loved the serpents. So for me, this was my healer. Yeah, there's all sorts of interesting things, you know. Some of them are, you know, the priestess. This is a shell. It actually works as a scoop, which is kind of interesting. Sometimes when I look through this, I can't remember what all of the objects mean, because of course I've had mine for a really long time. Now this would be related to year 2, so that we have these talismans that represent earth, air, fire, and water, and this is made with wax. So those would be year 2. Those would be year 2 objects. But as I'm looking through this, I'm going, yeah, not a lot of these make a whole lot of sense to anybody but myself. So I'm going to pack them away. But I will say this. If you already have a bundle, so say you're a Mesa carrier, or you've created a bundle through another channel, they really do complement each other really well. The 2 bundles can sit side by each on your altar, or you know, some people have sat doing their own spiritual work and then combined some of the bundles. So our bundle with the Mystery School, it's really a very personal bundle. It doesn't, you know, I don't like to make hard and fast rules. I really believe that's not the matriarchal way. I really feel that's more of a patriarchal way of kind of coming at things. And the matrilineal way is, we're meant to be rebellious. We're meant to sort of bust through these norms. That's the whole point. So, you know, what I get excited about is when, you know, women come and they're talking about their objects and they're talking about their bundles, and they've really taken a lot of ownership over them. So I encourage you to do that. You know, you don't have to do what I say. You know, a lot of it is really just a suggestion. You're going to go and do your journey, and, you know, your animal guide's going to give you information about what's supposed to go in this bundle. But I always, you know, for me, there was this big part when I was doing the Mystery School of the vision of it, is that there's a deep ownership when we really figure out who we are, and we really work with some of those archetypal aspects, or we really work to heal some of them that are very that really are calling for our attention. And when we've done that work, there's a certain amount of like, you know, pride that comes along with that, you know. And I really, you know, I just want us all to feel really proud of ourselves. So the idea is that when you open this bundle and you look inside of it, there's this combination of feeling proud of yourself because you have 13 objects in the bundle. You need the bundle to initiate. There's no homework, as you all know. You don't have to hand anything in. You don't have to do journal questions, but you do have to have a completed bundle. So again, that shows the hard work, the dedication, the showing up for lesson after lesson. You know, even when it takes you 2 or 3 months to do a lesson, you just keep showing up and you keep at it and go through the process of initiating, and then going through the initiatory process with me. So you have a complete bundle that's taken you who knows how long. It could be just, you know, it could be 13 months, it could be 15 months, it could be 2 years. And when you open that bundle, it's like, oh, wow, this is all of the parts of who I am. This is everything. This is about who I am. And so for those women who move into the second year, the year of the warrior, it's all about retaking stock and sort of looking at that bundle and saying, are there things in this bundle that need to change and grow, that need to move and come out? Are there new things that want to go in there? You know, what does this kind of look like? And even within second year, I've developed this whole interesting way that we take the medicine bundle, this beautiful, you know, gathering of objects, and into a divination system that works around the wheel of the 4 great elements: earth, air, fire, water. And that's a whole other process for year 2. You don't have to do year 2 at all. And so one of the questions that I got this month was from one of the women saying, you know, I'm not sure I'm going to do year 2. I'm not sure it's really for me. What would I do with my bundle after year 1? Does it sit on my altar? Like, what do I do with it? And so, you know, I would suggest if you're watching this video and you've completed your bundle, or you're near completion, or even if you're at the beginning, just to start sort of thinking about this, really taking complete and utter ownership of it. You know, for some, they're leading, you know, some of you are going to be leading moon circles. You're going to be inviting people to your house, women to your house, to sort of gather. Some of you are already doing leadership roles in your community. So having that bundle, you can take it with you out into your community, have it sitting on the altar. You know, it may encourage questions, and with great pride, you can say, this is my priestess bundle. It's part of the work that I had to do to initiate. You know, really, with that full ownership and stepping into sovereignty and autonomy, you might add to that bundle. It might morph into something different. You know, I don't really have a preciousness about it. I don't feel a great ownership over your bundle, but I really hope that you do. So with these bundles, for some of you, it might be a very private thing. It might be, you know, something that you work with for a really long time before you choose to share it with anyone else. You may feel that you want to keep it very quiet. You don't want to be asked questions about it. You want to just have it on your altar and just work with it in your own private time. For others, you might want to take it out into the community and open it up. You might choose to share your process with, you know, some of your groups that you're working with around the mystery school. You might just sort of, to inspire, you know, you might share a little bit of your own personal process, because it's going to be very unique to you. So there's lots of things that can be done with the bundle. For me, mine sits in my office here, and I do work with a couple other different bundles. So my bundles sit together. Sometimes when I'm doing healing work, I'll pull out the bundle, and sometimes when I'm doing healing work for myself and really sitting with self-care, or really you know, going into specific journeys, I might hold the bundle. I might have it sitting on my lap. As your bundles get larger, you might choose to journey with them, in the sense that you might just sit and hold your bundle while you're going into your journey, and have that bundle as part of the process. So you might find that as you go into the journey, you might actually even see yourself in the journey. As sometimes women will see themselves going into the river, and you'll sort of see that your clothing changes. You might find that you've got the bundle as a pack, or you might have a bundle on your hip that you carry with you that represents the bundle that you're creating. It might come into your dream time. Sometimes the information comes through the dream time about what objects want to go in there. Again, I'm not really wanting to say hard and fast rules about anything, because I find that's really stifling, and that's not really how spiritual work works. And it's certainly not how feminine, matriarchal, non-hierarchical spiritual work really happens in real time. It happens on a very personal, you know, level for each one of us. And to say that anything is right or wrong, just, it doesn't work. It's stifling, and it really, you know, we've had enough of people telling us we're wrong as women. We really, 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 what we need to be doing is sitting in that great circle with each other and saying, oh, that's so interesting. You know, here's my experience. It's very different, and I'm fascinated by yours. So there's this great sharing. So nothing can really be wrong, especially when it comes to journeying. Not everybody really journeys the same way, right? So for you, it might be this really deeply felt intuitive process. So you might come out of a journey where, you know, you don't necessarily see an object, but intuitively, a week later or a few days later, or as soon as you come out of the journey, intuitively you're feeling like, I know exactly what object wants to go in there. And ideally, that object is an object that when you look at it, right away you're like, oh yeah, this represents this archetype. This represents this aspect of me. Sometimes if the objects are too obscure, it's hard for us to really know. And really the point of the objects is that they do represent those archetypes. So we've got, we start with the maiden archetype. And so it might be something really lovely and gentle. I was talking to a sister recently who, she had the most beautiful process. I'm going to actually be talking about it a little bit more, but she was told to collect apple seeds. And so as a big fan of apples myself, I had just been collecting apple seeds for some very specific work that I was doing and had gathered them into a little vial. So she had this little vial of apple seeds, which I just thought was beautiful. And that represented the maiden, right? For some, I've seen women knit things that go into their bundles. As long as you know what it means, as long as, like I said, it's not too obscure. And it used to be, I used to have it sitting here on my desk, that I have a little smoky quartz heart crystal. I don't know why it's not here. Many of you saw me do this, and I would hold it up and say, this was my, I found it in a crystal shop. I was working with the shadow sister. I was really like, how do I find an object that represents the shadow? And every time I would journey in, I would just see shadows. So they weren't really showing me like, go get this specific object that represents your shadow sister. And so it took me a really long time. And then one day I walked into just this crystal store, and they had a little, tub of hearts. And I'm looking through, and I pull up this smoky quartz heart. So if you've seen smoky quartz, it's kind of a brown quartz stone. It's really beautiful, and you can usually see through it. Half of it was in shadow, so half of it was really, really, really dark brown. The other half was more of that like pale kind of crystal color. And there was this whole synchronistic understanding the minute I picked it up and held it in my hand of holding that shadow sister in my heart. And not everything is in shadow, and shadows aren't negative. There was just this whole beautiful connotation for me. So there was this like half in the shadow, half in the light kind of smoky quartz. So I know for every time I look at that, I know exactly what it represents. It represents my shadow sister. And sometimes when I'm working with a really specific archetype, because you'll have these lessons for forever. They're yours to keep. You can revisit them. You can go back and work with them. You can redo the lessons. It doesn't matter how old we get, from 21 all the way through to 81, the maiden archetype still has layers upon layers upon layers of information for us that we might want to revisit. I have definitely met 80-year-old women who manifest their maiden archetypes really beautifully, and they are very much, young women. It's wonderful. And so you may find that the objects change as you revisit them, and you may find that extra ones go in there, as I mentioned before. What was I going to say? I was having this thought about, it's gone now. Yeah. So you'll have the lessons forever. You can revisit and return to them and really just work with them. You may find that as you go along with other courses you take or books you read, that there's other archetypes, because there's more than 13, definitely more than 13 parts of ourselves. And you could journey on those. So you may find that you've got 21 archetypal, journeys that you did within the bundle. You may find that some of the archetypes match up beautifully, different archetypes with other trees. And so it becomes a very personal spiritual practice that is my offering to you, that you can really, privately within your own spiritual work, take and really make your own. And that's kind of the point. I really hope that this video inspires some of you to do that, especially if you've already finished, or you have your bundle, or you're coming upon, close to the end. We're coming up to January. So the sisters who joined us last January are coming up to their last months in a few months, and just thinking about what the next steps are. Would I be interested in year 2? Do I want to become an elder priestess? Is that something that I'm called to do? Do I feel really complete with this, and as a red corded priestess through the mystery school, want to just work within my community, or continue to do my own healing path? Perhaps there's other courses you want to take that are really interesting and calling for your attention. So whatever it is, I really hope you all feel that ownership, and I'd love to hear from you if you've done something really interesting with your bundle. You might change your cloth half the way through. You know, you might find a better one that you like more. Nothing is set in stone. And yet there's these really beautiful parameters or suggestions for us to sort of work within, working with the tree paired up with the archetype. You might even journey to that specific goddess and see if there's some wisdom teachings there. Yeah, so if you have any questions, I'm around. I'm just in the middle of the next intake. You all know what that's like. For those of you joined last December, November, December, for those of you joined in September, the intakes are always an interesting time for me. You know what I'll do is just before I power out, I'll show you what my office looks like right now because it's usually really, really tidy. And right now I've got packages and journals and pouches and white cords all over the place. It's a little bit crazy, you know, but it's kind of my favorite time of year, and I'm always looking to update and really make the mystery school as awesome as it can be. And what else would I say about that? Yeah, so keep asking me questions. You know, the really juicy ones, sometimes, most of the time, they end up on these videos, as you know. And I feel like I've spent an inordinate amount of time talking about how, you know, there's no timeline. Don't worry. We want to take the shame out of it. We've had enough shame as women. I feel like I've talked that one to death. So it's nice to talk a little bit about the bundles today and what they mean. I might talk a little bit about second year in the next video for those of you who might be interested in what that looks like. Get you thinking a little bit. Not to overwhelm anyone who's just stepped into the journey, me going on and on about second year, but it might be of interest just to kind of get you thinking, especially if you're feeling really inspired about the priestess path and what your possibilities are for, you know, especially for those of you who are called to leadership outside of the first year. So with all of that being said, I hope you're all enjoying this long weekend. If you're in the US and you've had Friday off and you've had some time with family, my weekend has been, well, it's only Saturday, it's only Saturday. I'm like, wait a second, how long has my weekend been? My husband is in the US because he's in New York right now, so he flew home on Wednesday because of the Thanksgiving weekend. So I've had a little bit, I played hooky yesterday as much as I could, and now I'm just catching up. So I'm just gonna pop this off here. Okay, so I'm gonna do is give you a little tour of my office right now. And I've got one of these fancy didgeridoos here. It gives me better lighting, so let's see. This is my healing space. So this is the bed, and you can just see. Isn't this delicious? This whole yummy jar of stones. Just do. My desk is completely a total absolute mess. Got all these like pouches here. But it's my favorite time. So I've got all these like lovely blank envelopes. No addresses yet, just stickers. Waiting for me to write addresses on them. I'm gonna get up to some of that tomorrow. But most importantly, tomorrow you're gonna get this video. You're gonna get your next lessons into your portals, and it's going to be the 1st of December, which means it's the whole next season going. So the next time you hear from me, it's going to be the 1st of January, 2020. I don't know if any of you have, I'm just looking at the time. How long have I been talking for? Thought about such things as New Year's resolutions. It feels a little early to be talking about that because it is only the 30th of November. And tomorrow's December 1st, which will be today, the day you're watching this video. And the next time I leave a video will be the 1st of January. So I have nothing to say about that. Other than that, I'm not a big fan of resolutions, and I am a big fan of a word for the year. So my word for this year, just to share with you for 2019, was refinement. I really wanted to distill down all of the things that I do and that I'm interested in, and to just really get really clear about what makes my heart sing. So this was my year of refinement, and I might have to do a second year of refinement. We'll see. I have to sit with that a little bit more and see what 2020 is asking from me. So be curious. What do you guys do? Do you do a word? Do you do resolution? Do you just say, forget the whole lot, I'm just going to do what I want? I would love to hear. Maybe we can start a discussion over on the Facebook page. Okay, I've been talking for 24 minutes. I will let you all go. I apologize for hacking your heads off for so long. And I'm sending you all great gobs of love. Yes, I'm stained red. I was dyeing red drums this week, so I've got red fingers. And enjoy December. We'll talk soon. Bye, everyone.